Dr. Lee, this has been a year that is rife with grief for many of us. And there can be a fine line between using our collective grief, pandemic or otherwise, as a means of connecting with each other. But there's a fine line between that and being overcome by it and not being able to connect, which isn't helpful. So for folks who work with youth, how might they effectively hold their own grief while still doing the work of ministry?
Yeah, if for those that were able to listen to the talk, one of the things that I said at the very end is that we have to take care of ourselves, and we cannot pour from an empty cup. And I truly believe that. And the old, oxygen mask analogy works here too. It's hard to help other people if you yourself are not okay. So we have all experienced grief in some way, and I think especially if the pandemic has impacted all of us in different ways. So to really attend to what it's been like for yourself and how grief is showing up for you presently, I think it's important. So what might that mean? In my line of work, there's a lot of consultation, peer consultation that goes into this work. And so having somebody you can talk with, perhaps not in a therapeutic sense, but just like as a colleague, to think out loud together, to consult, to see if there's a blind spot that you may not have noticed, just to be able to talk with somebody, that can be really helpful. Perhaps seeing somebody in a therapeutic space can also be very, very wise and beneficial. Having somebody else hold that with you, for you, I think can be really, really good. And I think being really honest with yourself. And all of us have really good clinical gut, I think, when something or not. So I ask that we trust that gut. And if you're starting to ask yourself questions like, whoa, is my own grief showing up? Or wow, I don't know if I'm the best person right now in this moment. Listen to that. Honor that may be a sign from your body, from your spirit, yourself saying to you, oh, this is touching me in a different way and maybe not. And give yourself permission to step back. Now, step back does not mean you abandon the youth that you're working with, but perhaps refer them to another person, right, who can hold that space right now. And I think us helpers, we have to be able to tap in and tap out in that way with one another. When I'm not able to take on a client for any reason, I may need to say, I'm going to refer you to this other person in our counseling center. And we do a lot of that for a wide variety of reasons. And in my talk, I share that, probably about 5 or so years after my father died, I really were not able to work with anybody who was coming in to explore their own grief. It was just too close. I found myself just in tears thinking about anything grief related or dying related, and how could I do that, and still be present for my clients. And so I took a break from taking those referrals and refer them to colleagues that were still taking those presenting concerns, and that's okay. I would rather know where my limits are rather than do more harm by taking on something and not listening to my clinical gut that said, this is too much.
Not pretending that you're a superhero all the time, right? But actually naming your own limitations. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, this idea of superhero wearing a cape, we get to put our capes down. Every good cape needs a little wash sometimes. And we need to take a break. Yeah. And then I'll just add one more thing, which we're talking about knowing our limits and knowing where to set some boundaries. And I think there's something very authentic about being in the moment with the person you're helping. And if something, and this may not be your grief, but if something touches you and you find yourself tearing up, back in my training, there used to be this idea of like, you cannot show any emotions with clients. That seems inappropriate. But I think there have been a couple of times in my career where something that a client brought to me brought emotions for me, not necessarily sad emotions, actually sometimes emotions of joy. Talking about their parents or their family or somebody significant to them, and they just share this wonderful experience. You hear and you're moved by it. there's something powerful to be able to demonstrate that to the person that you're working with, like, wow, I was just really moved, right? As long as the focus can continue to be about them. If the
Yeah.
it starts to be about how moved you are and all the ways in which you're touched, maybe not.
The attention shifts in an inappropriate way then, but yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, but I think in our world, we really want to attend to the feelings of other people. And I don't want that to come across as if we're saying we can't show anything.
Right.
And those can be powerful moments as long as we can stay the focus on the person that we're helping.